The following podcast is brought to you by Iconic Nation Media. Welcome to Season 5 of Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Levy. I'm here to guide you on a journey of personal growth and fulfillment. Join me as we delve into the challenges of both business and personal life, aiming to discover our true selves and connect more deeply with the world around us. On this podcast, we'll explore the topics that inspire and empower us to become the best version of ourselves. From book reviews to interviews with iconic individuals, we'll have insightful conversations that resonate with your journey. And a big thank you to our sponsors, the Boys and Girls Club of America, Greater Conejo Valley, and Levy's Deli for supporting the show and helping us bring these valuable discussions to you. Please share, rate, and review the podcast. And thank you so much for listening. You can also leave your comments at Kimberly Levy on social media. Thank you for your feedback and thank you for listening. Hello and welcome back to Level Up Podcast. Today we're going to replay an episode, and it's episode number 62. And for those of you that have not heard it, it's very important to me to replay this episode for two reasons. So this episode is called Skylar the Fighter, and it stems from Ryan and Lindsey Goldman speaking on a traumatic birth injury that they had while giving birth to their son, Skylar. And as a result, he had various issues that he has been fighting so bravely and overcoming one by one with the support of his family. And the reason why this episode is so important for me to share is because they have embarked on a journey of creating an all-inclusive playground that will allow kids that are disabled or adults that are disabled to be able to partake in being on a playground. Something as simple as being on a playground can be incredibly difficult for somebody like Skylar, who is faced with physical challenges. And they were seeking to raise $500,000 for this project to revamp Morrison Park here in Agora Hills. And now they are $80,000 away from their mark. So it is super important for me to get the word out and help them and support them in any way that I can personally. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And to me, this feels like something everyone should want to contribute to because, again, children all deserve to go out and go to a local park and play safely and be able to do it with as much ease as possible. So with that, please, if you are compelled to donate, find them on Instagram and connect with them. And if you could donate or just spread the word, give them a follow, share the story, share the episode, and just continue spreading the word. They've been working tirelessly for years on this, and I am so proud of them. They're the most incredible people. But what you do is follow them on Instagram and find at Morrison Park Playground. And Mama of Skylar the Fighter is Lindsey's Instagram as well. And please go ahead and support the cause if you can. And any awareness is good. So with that, thank you so much for listening. This is a little bit of a tearjerker, so trigger warning for you guys. But again, I think you'll understand why this is such an important story and such an important cause for all of us to support. Thank you guys, as always, for listening, and we'll talk soon. You guys, today I have Lindsey and Ryan Goldman on the show with me. I am super excited to have you guys. How are you?
We're great. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to dive into your story. So guys, I was so moved just meeting through mutual friends and speaking with both of you guys and meeting your adorable son. I was so moved by the story that from, I don't know, maybe a year ago, if that long, I was like, I need to have them on the podcast. And then I saw the project that was going on and I'm like, oh, we've got to get this word out. So with that, thank you so much for just joining me and for sharing the story that you're about to share. Can you talk a little bit about your son? So how old is Skylar?
Skylar's 5 years old.
Oh, he's so cute.
Long story short, we had a very typical perfect pregnancy and everything just went south during labor. And after 2.5 days, we had emergency C-section. he was not breathing and had to be resuscitated. And a few hours later, Ryan and Skylar were airlifted to Children's Hospital, and we were apart for 5 days. The first couple of days were touch and go. We didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And he pulled through. And 45 days later, we left Children's Hospital and came home with severe brain damage and lots of unknowns. And as he grew up, more things kind of came to light. He is epileptic and he has quadriplegia, cerebral palsy, which affects all 4 of his limbs. He's globally delayed. He feeds via a G tube, and he is beating the odds. He is a little medical miracle baby, and he's proving everyone wrong. And he still has a lot of issues we deal with and a lot of challenges ahead of him, but he is right now thriving and loving life.
Wow. Well, that was incredible that you could summarize it like that. So can we dive in? Can I double click into it and poke around there a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this was your first pregnancy, totally normal, as you said. And then you were at the hospital in delivery. Was he full term or was he born early?
Full term.
Full term. Okay. You go in, you have your labor pains, you're sitting there in labor and you're not progressing. You said for 2 days.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. So then they put you into C-section. Was something happening throughout the 2 days or you just weren't progressing?
I wasn't progressing. And eventually I just said, like, can I have a C-section? I had no birth plan. I just wanted a healthy baby and I was over it. It was getting just too long, just didn't seem right. And it was scheduled. And then all of a sudden, these doctors run in and I get pushed into the OR quicker than I should have. He should have been delivered a few hours earlier. Now we come to find out, but it just went from calm to chaotic in 1 second.
We just had our baby, London, who's 4 months old. And after they broke my water, she started to have rapid heart decelerations, which apparently is very common when they break your water because it's a rapid change in the environment. I didn't know any of this. Nobody ever briefed me. I had no idea. And they almost same thing. The team rushed in and then if it wasn't going to come back in a matter of 1 or 2 minutes, they were prepping the OR. Is that is that what happened with you guys at that time?
So we didn't know at the time. For some reason, our heart monitor was muted, which I didn't think anything of because I've never had a baby. So I didn't think of needing to listen to it. But yeah, his heart rate decelled under 60 beats per minute for over 8 minutes.
Okay.
So that's extremely low. So we found this all out after the fact.
Right. And it's interesting because so I delivered at Cedars and they said to me, because like you, I had no idea what was going on when they all rushed in.
Right.
And I was figuring out in the process that there's something with the heart beeping. I didn't know what was happening. And the doctor later, I asked him, I said, like, how long can you wait? Like, how much longer did we have? And he said, by 8 minutes, if we do not have it back, we are in the OR and I get that baby out in a minute. Mm-hmm. And because previously they said 15 minutes, the latest, but he said, you start to have damage past, it starts to get sketchy. Correct. But it was just odd. It's like, well, why am I just being educated about this, like after all this happened, and come to find out so many of my girlfriends had this issue in labor and I never knew about it and no one ever told me.
Because no one talks about it.
Ever.
They talk about how you have to breastfeed and how having babies are amazing and everything's perfect and don't worry about it. That's what they do. No one talks about it. Yeah.
Amongst a laundry list of so many other things, right?
Correct.
So, okay. So that's really fascinating because see, when we first met, I didn't have that experience yet with my first two. That never happened. So now that happened, I know exactly what you're talking about. So that happened. So then they took you to the OR.
Oh yeah. I was rushed in. They wouldn't let Ryan come with. My doctor wasn't even there.
Yeah. And how come you had mentioned that they probably should have done it even a couple hours sooner? Is that because he kept having heart deceleration?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and again, you didn't know.
Oh, I had no idea.
They don't tell you.
We were just chilling there, like hanging out, listening to music. No idea.
Yep. Totally. I could totally see how this all went down now. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you're in the OR, and then what happens?
Oh God, it was just pure chaos, lots of screaming. Ryan wasn't there. I obviously knew something was wrong. I was trying to just stay calm, just breathe, like
Right.
don't move. Finally the doctor came and they finally let Ryan in, and he was stuck, but his head was stuck between my pelvis and the cord. And that's what caused a lot of damage. It was pinched. So they pulled him out from his feet because they couldn't get him out any other way.
And this is after they cut you open.
Correct.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was jammed in there. So they had to pull him out. Obviously, I didn't see this, but the NICU team was there. They're rushing him out. I can't obviously see anything. I just keep saying, he's not breathing. And Ryan's trying to tell me it's going to be fine, but he can see it's not fine. Yeah, it was like a war zone, like all the sounds. I mean, I just went into Starbucks the other day, and like their beeping from making their food like triggered me. I'm like, I can't even go into a Starbucks because I hear these sounds, and it's like, it brings me right back. So I support drive-throughs.
I also do, for other reasons. I would imagine the therapy that you have to endure now. This is PTSD now, basically, that you have to deal with.
Oh yeah. I had years of therapy. I did EMDR therapy, and now I just work out and box, and that helps me let out any anger and frustrations I still have.
Wow. And you shared with me, that this has also clouded your ability to want to have more children. Is that right?
That is correct. I recently had surgery, so I will never have children again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
but I feel relief. Now it's just over with and I can move on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that this is obviously very upsetting for you guys to have to relive. So I appreciate you sharing it, and I think it's so important for people to be aware also, just because your story could have been my story. I mean,
it can be anyone's story.
It can be literally anybody's story. So I think it's super important just to like share that, look, when you see someone that might not look like your child, like you don't know what happened with them. You have no idea it's
all genetics.
Right. And that could have been you in a heartbeat. So, and this is where I always like to come from a place of compassion, because it's like I know people don't want to ask the questions because they don't want to offend you and they don't want to, say the wrong thing. And I get that. But
I'd rather educate them than them judge or assume, or, they need to know. People, I now have a big community of disabled moms, friends whose kids are disabled. And a lot of them are birth injury stories. It's not, something that happened in utero or, something's hereditary. And yes, those things do happen. But this new community I'm, incorporated with, I could say a lot of it's birth related injuries that 100% could have been prevented.
That is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And by the way, you use the term disabled. Is that the correct term if you're referring to a condition like this, or like how does someone refer to this? Because from someone that is not in it, it's like, you don't want to say the wrong thing. You never want to offend somebody or hurt anyone.
I mean, a lot of people say special needs, disabled. A lot of people in disability community think special needs is not appropriate because they're not any more special. They're just a human being. So I would say the majority of people prefer the word disabled, and there's nothing wrong with saying I'm a disabled kid versus saying I'm a special needs child.
Okay.
So I typically say disabled.
Okay. That's good to know. So you go through all of this and the aftermath, I'm sure there was a lot of pain and anger, and also just straight, like, how do we now what? Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a job, I had daycare lined up, and your life just stops because you don't know, are we going to leave the hospital? Okay, great. Check. We left the hospital. Now what? We've never had kids. I never babysat. I don't have younger siblings. So this was very new to me. I mean, just like most people, and you just have to put your big girl pants on and go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, bringing home a child for anybody, again, I just did it again. And look, it was my third and I was still, I was still struggling, right? We were all still struggling because it's a new human. You have no idea who the human is and how to care for it. There's every person is different, but then to layer on, that there's other issues there that you definitely were never coached on. How do you, so I'm sure there's resources where there are people coming to your house to help you like extra, like where do you get guidance to start caring for this sweet young child and figuring out what to do? And what does that look like for you?
We have an incredible pediatrician and I was at her office multiple times a week for the first year. And she kept me sane through all of this. And her friends at UCLA, we just have a really great team. She is the leader. She's the head of our team. And you have to have a good team behind you. And you have to have a good spouse that supports you and, friends that check in on you. And you just kind of take one day at a time because every day is different and there's new challenges every day, but you have to deal with them. It's just life. You have to deal with them.
Yeah. And of course you just want to support your son. I mean, you just want to make everything as easy on him and, joyful as possible, just like all of us. Right. But for you, it's that extra effort.
Correct.
And by the way, what is that community that you plugged into? If say there was down the line, someone listening that they found themselves in a similar situation, like what are the communities that you like to be plugged into or where they could maybe reach out?
Well, I think it depends on what condition your child has. So Skylar, his brain trauma is called hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, or long for HIE. So there's a group called Hope for HIE, and it's a really great community that people can connect with each other, different moms. And just like autism, HIE has a huge spectrum, a mild case, a moderate case, severe case. So there's not just like every child's different. They can all have the same diagnosis and every single one be totally different. So that was a great community for me. And we also got connected through regional center really quickly. And so he started therapy, we got home at 45 days and we had intake come the next day and he started therapy the next week. So having really great therapists that you can talk to, and they can connect you with different parents, or different resources. I mean, they're like my second family. I mean, some of them have been working with Sky since he's 8 months old and he's 5.5. So it becomes like your second family.
And the hospital linked you up with that therapy service, like a social worker
you do get social workers in the hospital. We just contacted regional center on our own because we don't have patience to wait for other people to do things for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ryan handled all that stuff. Intake came the day after we got home and we started that therapy journey immediately.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of that kind of backstory. And, one thing I noticed when I first met you is that the way that you were feeding him was different than I had seen. Can you just speak a little bit about that? And I want to, again, share this so that if people or their children are out and about and they see somebody eating differently than we're used to, they're not like freaking out, and they can maybe explain it to their children or, have that discussion as it comes up.
Yeah. So he's got a G tube in his stomach and I connect an extension and I put his blended food in syringes and I just syringe feed him. I give him water through his G tube, medicine, everything. So he's always hydrated. He is growing and thriving. He is starting to learn how to swallow and chew orally, but that's where a lot of damage was. So he never breastfed. He never was able to take a bottle because he didn't have that mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've gone through different ways of feeding him. We had a pump for a while. We did gravity feeds where you kind of hold the syringe up and have gravity, bring the food down. And then now we just syringe feed. But oh yeah, you get stares, but I'm also not afraid to call people out.
Really? Have you ever had to?
I sure have. There was
Really?
another gentleman at Costco in Simi Valley, and it wasn't like a interesting stare. It was like a very aggressive stare for like multiple minutes. And I asked him, what are you looking at? Do you have any questions? Like, I'm more than happy to answer them, but stop staring at me. It's really annoying. There were other words that were said, but I won't repeat them on here. And he didn't want to know, and he just walked away. But I'm more than happy to explain to anyone. It's really not a big deal. So many of the kids think it's cool. Oh, okay, whatever. They just brush it off. It's usually adults who are judgmental. And that's where their kids become judgmental because they learn from their parents.
Yes. I love that. And something, I had two sobering occurrences with my children that really made me think twice about being a parent. And this is where this discussion is so important for any parents out there listening, is like, we do have a real responsibility, just like we have a responsibility to talk about diversity as far as race, religion, and all of those, and, gender, sexual orientation, all that other stuff that's going to come up as a parent. There's also people out there that have been either born with health issues or conditions, or that they've had to face. And so one time what happened with our children was, we were at the grocery store locally here at Ralph's, and there was a female that didn't have an arm. And my kids, my kids are at this time 4 and 5. And all of a sudden I'm checking out, I hear my son screaming, and they're screaming, "Oh my God, she doesn't have an arm. She doesn't have an arm." They're screaming. I mean, hysterically screaming. And by the way, my kids are very tender. I have to tell you, they're very tender-hearted, both of them. So they were not saying it to make fun of her or to be malicious in any way, shape, or form. They just were shocked. They had never seen this.
Right. And it's not a typical everyday occurrence.
Exactly. And so this is where I went, oh, well, first of all, I pulled them aside and I said, you do not shout at someone like that. That person has been through enough problems. They have faced enough heartache. You most certainly will never make it worse, and I kind of scolded them. Right. And I had a whole discussion about it. And I was, thinking, if that were me or my family member, I'd be so upset. Right. Like that somebody just did that. And so as a parent, it's like, I can't just sit back and scold them. I now have to educate them and let them realize that, look, guys, this is something we need to address.
Not everyone's the same.
Exactly. And you are going to see that there are people out there that do not look like you. They might have a health issue. They might not have hair. They might have all different things that come up. And I tried to give some really good examples. And I said, what you will never do, though, is judge them. You will never scream anything. You will never harass. You will never bully. You will do nothing but be completely proactively kind and supportive. And you will treat them exactly like everybody else, but it just is like, I wasn't prepared as a parent.
Right. I get it. I mean, I wasn't prepared for this either. I get it. You have to just figure it out, and you figured it out.
Yeah. And that's why when I saw you feeding Sky, I was like, can you tell me about that? Like, what exactly are you doing? And like, how does it work? And, do you mind me asking, and, cause I think I'd like offered you a slice of pizza or something, or, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? Like, I don't want to be offensive. Like, what is it? Tell me so that I know.
And that's totally okay. Like, I would prefer that all day, every day versus these horrific stares. Like, I'm abusing my child. Like, my child eats better than anyone else. So he's healthier than any of you.
Oh, I bet you're like handcrafting every single thing in his body. And, I mean, you're going through it like with a fine tooth comb, I'm sure. Okay. So I think the takeaway for listeners here is like, look, if you see somebody that looks different, and again, it could be a young person that is missing hair because they're undergoing chemotherapy, or, it could be anything. It could be someone with a missing arm. It could be someone with a different kind of head or face, or whatever the case may be. I think you need to take it as a moment to remember to pause and educate your children about, why does this person look different? Whether you know for sure exactly what it is, or, generally that it's something different, and like educate your children to say, coach them on what should they do and what shouldn't they do.
I mean,
So
just be friendly and say hi.
yes, be normal.
Right. Just say hi. Like, you don't have to even talk to them. Like, a lot of people, when you walk by each other, you just like put your hand up and say, hey, like, just do that.
Right.
You don't have to say, hey, what happened to your arm?
Right.
They might not want to talk to you, but just say hi.
Exactly. Just
kindness goes such a long way.
Absolutely. Versus in awkward stare and stay away from this person. Like, what are you doing? Like, be human.
Exactly.
Okay. I love that. I love it. Okay. So you guys have not just stopped there. This is where we get into the really, really cool stuff. So here you are, you obviously have adjusted to your new normal. You're taking obviously above and beyond impeccable care of your son. And I'm sure there's been so many tears and just so many things that go on over this period of time until now. I'd really like to get into how you guys are rolling up your sleeves and becoming proactive. Can you tell us a little bit about the project that you've been working on?
Oh yeah. This is Ryan's.
Come on, Ryan.
Baby. Well, Ryan's baby.
Don't be bashful, Ryan.
You did great in describing all that. I had tears in my eyes just welling up, and it's emotional, and just remembering, just going back those 5 years and talking about how difficult things were. So being in a space where we have a disabled child, things feel a lot different. Nothing goes according to plan. Even a daily outing, going to the store, going to the park, going to visit family members, everything became more difficult. And we were trying to incorporate our new normal, and there were so many challenges that we were trying to overcome as a family. We got to a point where we wanted to do something positive, not only for our son Skylar, but also for the people that are in the same community, that are dealing with the same kind of heartache, the same kind of medical status as we are. Living with a disabled child is really difficult. So we decided, where we live in Agora, there's not a lot of great parks, playgrounds to be more specific. And we found ourselves traveling all over Southern California to try and find a playground that really worked for Skylar, because he's dealing with mobility challenges. For a year or so, he had a walker when he was learning how to walk. Doctors said he would never learn how to walk, but he did. And he learned with a walker. And a walker doesn't work with wood chips. It doesn't work with sand. It doesn't work with a lot of different playgrounds. And where we live in Agora Hills, there weren't a whole lot of playgrounds that were accessible. So we decided that if something was going to change, it was going to change because we put forth an effort. So we decided that we were going to redesign our local playground at Morrison Park, which is where we live near in Agora Hills. So we went through a couple different avenues, a change.org petition to see if the community was in favor of it. And they were, and we had a ton of signatures. And I started working with the Agora Hills City Council to see if this is something that they want to do in the city. And the answer was yes. We eventually partnered with our nonprofit partner, the Rotary Club of Westlake Village. I'm now a Rotarian with the organization. And we put together an agreement with the city of Agora Hills. And as of about a month ago, the agreement was approved. So we now have approval from the city of Agora Hills to redesign and fundraise for a brand new inclusive playground. And it's an unbelievable project that we put together. There's no more wood chips. We're using poured in place rubber flooring surface. There's no more step down to get into the playground. Essentially, the rubber flooring is going to be at the same level as the surrounding grass. So you can,
and pathways.
Right. So you can just walk, wheel, get down to the playground without any transitions, which is a beautiful thing. For someone dealing with mobility challenges and issues, Now we're at a completely flat surface. We're going to be removing all of the existing play equipment, which, by the way, is 25, 30 years old. It's seen better days. That stuff is out with the old, in with the new. The new stuff is going to be awesome. We're going to have these accessible ramps leading onto this large play structure. We're going to have sensory panels all over the place. There's going to be learning boards, a new tots area. There's going to be musical instruments. There's going to be balance beams. There's going to be monkey bars. There's going to be this really cool new age, it's like merry-go-round that you can climb on. It's called the Global Motion. This thing is going to be the crown jewel of our playground. And the beauty of it all is it's going to be entirely 100% accessible and inclusive. It's going to give all kids the ability, no matter typical, disabled, whatever, it's going to give all kids the ability to play together. And that's really what we want. And not only do we want it specifically for Skylar, but we want it for all the people that are dealing with the same stuff that we are. All the medical mamas out there, all the dads dealing with disabled kids. We want to kind of level the playing field and allow our children the ability just to play, just to have a good time without any barriers. And it's a beautiful project. It's something that is has been well received because this is for everybody. It's for the community. And we're at the point now where we are fundraising, which is really exciting. And we're out in the community and we're knocking on doors and we're at city sponsored concerts and park events. And we're bringing a lot of awareness to the community. And we're seeing the love. We're feeling the love. And it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, that is incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. This is an unpaid gig. This is all volunteer. This is us working when we can, in the morning, at night, not trying to take away from our normal duties and responsibilities and career. This is an extra. And we've spent the last 18 months putting this together. And we're so excited that now we're able to start fundraising and we're getting closer to the groundbreaking ceremony, which is a wonderful thing. But we got to raise a lot of money.
How much? Mind if I ask, what is the fundraising goal?
So playgrounds are not cheap. We'll start off that way. But, and people tell me all the time how much money this is. And I say, this is a community investment. This is something that's a legacy forever project. And it doesn't go away. So once we fundraise and once we build it, it's going to be there in the community forever. So with that in mind, we are fundraising $500,000 to go to the playground. And it goes to the flooring, the rubber flooring. It goes to the new equipment. It's the removal. It's the installation. And, oftentimes when you do a house remodel, you spend a lot of money on stuff you don't see, right? Yeah. Like underneath your floors or in your attic space. There's a big chunk of that is going to go into the foundation of the playground itself, where there's multiple bases and there's additional drainage that's needed. So there's infrastructure needs that we have to address as well. So when you add it all up, it's going to be probably slightly under 500,000, but that's the number we're shooting for to really make this happen. And we hope that we can bring in enough money where we can actually break ground 2023, sometime next year.
And how long will it take? Is it projected to take to actually, once you've broken ground? Any ideas?
Oh, construction timelines are probably about 5 months, assuming that all the product is, logistics and freight and, the world's a little crazy right now. So if we can get it all on time, I believe the construction timeline should be around 4 or 5, maybe 6 months at most.
Got it. And so if people do want to contribute to this, what is the best way? And do 100% of the donations go to the project?
Right. So we partnered with the Rotary Club of Westlake Village, and we're essentially using their nonprofit status and their foundation to be a vessel for our bank account and accounting. So 100% of all proceeds go directly to this project. And the best way to learn more about it, to donate directly to it, is through our website, morrisonparkplayground.com, where we have a link where you can put in credit card donation. And we also have an avenue if people would like to send in checks. And we're also opening this up not only for individual contributions, but also for corporate sponsorship. We're going to have a wall, a legacy wall of donors that's going to be attached to the outside of the restroom wall that's just directly facing the playground. And anybody who donates $5,000 or more, they get their name or their company on the legacy donor wall. We also have playground signage where if a corporation individual would like to donate $5,000 or more, that also their logo will go on playground signage. We have a robust sponsorship opportunity package that we've put out there on the website. And we have some wonderful news to announce as well. We just received our first large sponsorship donation of $25,000 last week. And we're thrilled that we've been fundraising now for about 2.5, 3 weeks. And we're around 30,000 so far. It's a great start. We're really thrilled to announce our $25,000 donor. And there's a whole bunch more in the pipeline too.
Wow. Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
That's
it is
a huge deal.
And
And,
we're stoked.
and do you guys need representatives to help with the fundraising? Is that like, if somebody's like, look, I don't have the money to donate necessarily, or maybe look, they're going to throw in $100 or whatever someone can afford, but they also would like to donate their time. How can they be a part of that process?
So every dollar counts, whether it's $5, $10, $100, $1,000. We love every single penny that comes through the donation website. We're also putting together community involved events. We want the whole community to embrace this. And we realize that not everybody has the means to make a substantial donation. So volunteering hours are really important as well. And we want to take up everybody that asks, hey, how can I get involved? How can I help? We want to put together, restaurant fundraisers, local businesses to host. Like we just talked to an art studio that wants to do a paint and sip night, where a lot of the proceeds go to the playground. We want to talk to everybody because there's wonderful ideas out there, and we want to involve anybody who wants to be involved. We want that community involvement. So we're coming up with a whole host of unique fundraising ideas that we need some assistance on to get these things, rolled out. Whether it's, a restaurant donating 20 to 30% of the proceeds for that one day, bringing this type of flyer, that type of stuff. And it all adds up. And we definitely want community involvement. So if people are interested in helping, go to the website, go to the contact us portion. We have a sign up sheet. We're rebuilding the website a little bit. We're adding a volunteer page. So morrisonparkplayground.com. If you want to get involved, that's the best way to contact us. We also have social media on Instagram and Facebook. And a lot of people reach out to us that way as well. Everyone's welcome. We want to hear from everybody.
I love that. That's so great. And I'll link the website and all the information for folks again in the show notes so that people listening can easily get to it, and your Instagram handle as well. I just have to say thank you guys for doing this, because I was not aware of the fact that wood chips, or the fact that the park, I know that park, but any park that steps down, it's a barrier and it's a real challenge. It's not something that somebody thinks about, So for that particular park, are you guys filling in where it steps down? Is that what's happening? Are they pouring concrete there or something? Is that what it is?
So the way it works is there's going to be multiple bases. Once everything is removed, there's going to be multiple layers that are going to be laid underneath the rubber flooring surface. And it will lift the playground to the point where it's now level and flush with the surrounding grass. So there's not going to be a need for a ramp to get you into the playground. There will be no ramps to get onto the playground surface, which is the opposite of how it looks now.
Right. Right now there's ramps.
Right now it's not great. The condition's not wonderful. But the ADA, American with Disability Act, the standards aren't where they should be. So wood chips are actually considered ADA approved, just as sand is too. It's really not ADA approved. It's not ADA accessible. A wheelchair can't maneuver in a sea of wood chips. And a child with a walker can't maneuver safely on wood chips. So really the ADA standards, we want them to kind of revise what they are accepting as,
That's a different project for a different time.
But the moral of the story is the rubber flooring surface allows everybody. And one of the things that we've heard from is that multi-generational aspect as well. So grandma and grandpa, a wounded vet can now be on the playground and don't have to worry about falling because the wood chips are kind of unstable. So it allows everybody now onto the playground surface to be with their kid, to be with their friends.
Or if they have a walker, a lot of older people,
Right.
Have a rollator or a cane.
Right.
And that'll give them the stability too, if they're babysitting, if there's hanging out, that they can take, the kids to the park as well and feel comfortable.
And be an active member.
Totally.
Right? Be an active participant.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. That is such a great point, because that is absolutely a whole other sector of people that can benefit from the project.
Right.
What do you guys think about the project, or the park in Calabasas that I think has the rubber floors? I think you had mentioned, didn't you guys like that one park? Forgive me, I forget the name of it. We call it the bump park in our house, where, the bump slide. It bumps down. Really fun, by the way.
Well, the rolling slide.
Yeah. We'll have one of those.
Wow. So is that an example of is that a good park?
It was a great park. And that park was funded through donations as well. That took a $1 million donation to get that one built.
One donation.
Yeah. Spectacular.
Where's our donor?
Wow.
And it really, in the area, was the best inclusive playground. We modeled a lot of what we've done after that one, and specifically the Dreamcatcher playground at Old Meadows Park in Thousand Oaks. That one's spectacular as well. That one was also funded through donations through the Rotary Club. Mm-hmm. So all of these big inclusive projects, a lot of times, aren't funded through the city by itself. They take someone like Dina Kaplan. She was the one that founded Brandon's Village in Calabasas. The Dreamcatcher was founded through the Rotary Club, and Morrison Park Playground is going to be, founded by Lindsey and I. And sometimes it takes a family with a disabled child to bring awareness to the community and build something special.
Wow. Okay. So, well, yes, I do agree, Lindsey. That is another project, speaking with the ADA, because I feel like to have so many different ad hoc projects, with private donors, and, having to kind of do a onesie twosie for a handful of projects. And it's, a lot of hard work, obviously, is so inefficient that I absolutely feel like something bigger does need to happen. And this is an example as to why it needs to happen.
It's 2022. Things got to change.
I completely agree. This
Times are changing.
It needs to change, and it needs to happen. So that's something I'd like to talk to you about. But, the other thing is that in a practical sense, for parents out there listening, I think that another takeaway here is you just threw out a bunch of parks in our local community. If somebody out there is listening and you plan on throwing a birthday party for your 4-year-old, for your 5-year-old, whatever your kid is, maybe you think twice about where you have it. Like, this is the kind of low-hanging fruit that is a practical takeaway. It's free. It's just knowledge. If you are hosting a party and you have friends or family members that could benefit from this kind of an environment, maybe choose wisely, be aware of that stuff. Right. I'll be honest with you. So we invited you guys to our Nerf. My son had a Nerf Wars party. And I was like, oh, I want them to come. I want Skylar to come. And then I went, wait a minute, is he going to be able to participate? And then is he going to feel bad if he can't? So then I kind of went back and forth. I'm like, well, I really want them to come. And so I started thinking, and I'm like, well, why can't I do like a sensory station? And by the way, he's not going to be the only child that doesn't feel like doing Nerf. And why do I know that? Is because my daughter, we went to one of those parties and she kind of got bored of it and wanted to do something else. So it kind of pushed me, and I kind of was trying to push myself. And I went to Michael's, and they had a box. It was kind of expensive. It was probably like $50, which I was thinking, why is this $50? But I got like 2 or 3 of them, these boxes, and it had, all different sensory stuff that could, and again, it could also be for the younger kids, perhaps. And for a number, the more I started thinking through it, I'm like, oh, this is a great chance for me to kind of think creatively about my party, and I can do it in a way where it's really inclusive, and it's not just inclusive for the Skylars of the world, but also for maybe the younger kids that, and I guess I'm just trying to draw up examples for people of how can you help? This is how you can help. Being inclusive is how you can help. Think about things, from the lens of not just yourself, and think about, if this were my child, like what would make this easier for us and more enjoyable. And I just think that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit here that people, we're all so caught up in our own selves that they don't even take a pause to think twice about this. And that really needs to change. So is there any other, I guess from that lens, is there anything else like in a very practical way that you can think of, that you would like people to know?
I mean, I think just treating everyone the same. Don't treat Skylar different because he's a little different, treat him like one of the other guys, one of the other kids, I saw a meme this morning, and I actually shared it to my Instagram story, and it said disabled students or people deserve friends who like them as humans, not just because they're disabled.
Right.
And it's so true. Like, I want someone to like Skylar because he's funny and he's silly and he's goofy, not because he's disabled and like someone feels bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a cool kid. Get to know him. If you don't want to, it's your loss, not his.
Totally. I love that.
Just kindness goes a very long way.
Especially when they're young.
Yeah.
Because you can teach a lot of kids wonderful traits when they're young, and then they learn it, and then they move on with the rest of their life, and they still practice kindness because they were in school with a kid that was different. And sometimes it's just the exposure with the younger kids, or the exposure that the parent provides the children, and that makes a world of difference.
I agree. And I think it shows them the color of the real world, and it makes it normal. Like, again, my best friend having her younger brother, Ryan, who, was disabled. He's been in my life since 3rd grade. And I mean, I know him for him, like you're saying, like for his, who he is. Like, I know a lot about him. Like, he's, I treat him just like I treat anybody else. And I don't define him just by that. Like, yes, it's like and it's like the afterthought. He happens to also have these issues, these physical issues, which I do actually respect him a lot further because I see how much he's had to fight to get to where he is. He has his master's degree. He, works in Washington, D.C. and lives on his own, even though he's legally blind and can't walk, can never drive, and so on and so forth. But, when I think of him, it's not about that. It's about who he is, that he's funny, that he's smart, that he's kind, and all these things that I know about him because it's normal, right? Like from the beginning, I've had that exposure. And maybe that's why I'm not afraid to ask about, what's happening with Skylar and like, tell me about how you're feeding him. I've never seen that. And like, I see that, I see his big giant smile, and I want my kids to be around someone like that. Like, he seems like a great guy. And I see he's also in baseball. Is that right?
He did. He was in T-ball and he loved it.
How was that? How did you guys navigate that?
I'll let you take that one.
Well, kids just want to be like other kids, and he wants to mimic what his peers are doing. And we've known for a while that he's interested in sports, and you have to pick the right sport when you're dealing with some of these challenges. And T-ball just made a lot of sense. And we put him in a division where he's the oldest kid. So maybe he's 5. So he was in T-ball with 3 and 4-year-olds. So it helped him kind of keep up, so to speak. But we started practicing at home, how to swing a bat, how to hold the bat. We took those same principles and we brought them to therapy. So physical therapists and occupational therapists started working on his baseball swing and how to put his hand in a mitt. We had another therapist that kind of made a mitt more adaptive. So we brought our entire therapist team on board and said, this is what we want to do. And we'd like you to kind of help them work on it. So when it comes to practice and when it comes to games, we'll start really seeing improvement. And there was a huge difference between game 1 and the final game of the season. It was just night and day, totally noticeable. He had made so many strides. And
he had so much fun. It wasn't like the parent forcing the kid to play the sport. He cried when we left, like he didn't want to stop. He didn't even probably realize that he wasn't as good or couldn't run after the ball, but he could hit the ball and he had the biggest smile and he did get faster and he had so much fun. It's like, we didn't want it to end because it brought so much joy to we have a game on Saturday. Like we have to be somewhere like all these other parents who have, all their kids' schedules take up their lives, take up their weekends. And we finally could feel that. And it was awesome. But he enjoyed it. And that's what made it so special. It wasn't us forcing him to do something to feel typical. He can't say that he looks forward to it, but I know that when the weekend came and it was time to go and he'd see his uniform, he just got so happy.
And all the parents and coaches from our Agora Pony baseball team, they were all super supportive. They were rooting for him every at bat. Everybody knew he had cerebral palsy. Everybody knew that he was different. They all saw us feed him. We would talk about it. We bring it up in conversations, and everybody was so supportive, and it made it easy. Because we felt like we were in a loving situation. We felt like we were in the right place.
You felt a part of a team.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like
an outsider.
Yeah.
Sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And we look forward to fall ball with Agora Pony.
Yeah.
Because now we're hooked.
Yeah. We drank the juice.
That is so important. I love it. Oh God, I knew I was going to cry a little bit. I've been pretty good, guys. I still have the postpartum hormones as well, but I'm also sensitive.
Yeah.
So I just, I sit here and I listen to you guys and I see what you're doing. And I just think, oh my gosh, that little boy is so lucky that he has you both as parents. I mean, I know you didn't ask for this journey, but the way you're handling it is, the most classy, I don't even have the words to describe, what kind of parents you really are. The character you guys have, and for you guys to lean in as hard as you are and just overcome the adversity together as partners, which I'm sure is not easy. I know half the time, Brian and I in stressful situations as a partner raising children at any time can be very stressful. I just have so much respect for you guys. And, I love that you're bringing Skylar the joy that he deserves, right? And to have the joy of being a kid and, wow, you're just incredible people, really incredible. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap and just say thank you guys so much for joining me. And I can't wait to help you fundraise, to contribute where I can, where our restaurants can, and really get the word out there. So hopefully folks can share this podcast that has your website, all of the information, your Instagram, and really just get the word out. Let's do it. I mean, look, I was on the school board this year, and we're always doing fundraisers. If any of you guys listening, you're part of a school, which many of us are, maybe partner and propose something to the board for a fundraiser. I know I'm already thinking restaurants, like you said, any small business, anything you guys can think of. Let's bring the ideas forward and get the $500,000 raised.
Yeah,
Let's
every
do it.
dollar counts.
That's right.
Well,
Every dollar counts.
That's right.
It does. It does. Okay. Well, Lindsey and Ryan, thank you so much. And Skylar, the fighter, thank you. That little guy, he's such a cutie pie. I can't wait to see him and his big smile. And yeah, thank you guys again for being on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Kimberly.
All right, that is it for today. Now, as you know, some of our best conversations actually happen after the show. So I want you to find me on Instagram at Kimberly Lovey and let me know your thoughts about today's show. You can screenshot this episode and let us know what your biggest takeaway was and tag me at Kimberly Lovey and we can share it on our stories. I will see you again, same time, same place next week.